Women have kind of been written out of the whole equation because the research and science was funded by men and only done on men. And so women kind of have been discarded, and we are completely different animals.
It is so bad that I had no idea in medical school that all of the studies that we had on medications, on diagnoses, were all done on men. Women have worse outcomes with heart attacks because people cannot recognize that they're having a heart attack when they say nausea. They say, I'm not feeling well. I feel fatigued. It's not that crushing left-sided chest pain, like radiating to the arm. In 2026, we should be talking about women just as much as we're talking about men in healthcare, and that's just not the case. In fact, the biggest area that we don't have support and research is women in midlife.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Noonan-Goris. Today's conversation is an important one about women's health, specifically this wild roller coaster of a ride called perimenopause and menopause. This convo couldn't be more timely for me, as I have been in full denial of my initiation into perimenopause. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Dr. Amy Shah, a double board certified MD and nutrition specialist who studied at Cornell University. Over the last decade, she has built a world-renowned wellness education platform and written 2 best-selling books, I'm So Effing Hungry and I'm So Effing Tired, with her 3rd book, Hormone Havoc, on the way. In this episode, she shares a simple science-backed approach to supporting hormone health, energy, and longevity through food and movement without extremes or unnecessary overwhelm. Her approach is simple, digestible, but profoundly helpful. If you've been frustrated with what's happening with your body, mind, and spirit in midlife, or want to navigate your hormonal continuum with more grace and sanity, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. Dr. Shah, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So this is such a perfect time for this conversation because I have been fully in denial of perimenopause, and I'm almost 47. So I've been in denial for a long time. But I feel my period is now just becoming irregular, and I'm just going, no, this cannot happen.
I know. It feels like you should be able to do something if you're healthy and you do all the right things, and we should be able to not have it, right? But it's it's kind of, I always kind of equate it to puberty. It's not like if you're if you had a bad puberty where it was a lot of acne or mood changes, it wasn't because you were doing something bad. It's just how your body reacted to the hormonal changes. So yes, there's a few habits that could make it worse, like lots of smoking or alcohol. But for the most part, everybody has symptoms during this time.
Yeah. But Hormone Havoc, your new book, a science-backed protocol for perimenopause and menopause, has a lot of hacks and protocols so that it could make it better. And so we can sail through in a much more graceful way than, the havoc that left to its own devices, the hormones could render on our bodies and lives.
Well, the thing is, we need a handbook. And I myself was like, if I don't, as a physician, don't have any answers as support, nutritional guidance. We don't even have it in our textbooks. How is anybody else supposed to navigate this time? We need a handbook. The book is not supposed to be this is the end all be all. It's supposed to be hey, I know you've not gotten any guidance around this. Here's some things you can do with your nutrition, your lifestyle that have some science backing that can help you. And we deserve that.
Yes. So speaking of which, I love asking this question because so many people come on this show, especially because they were trained conventionally and then woke up somewhere along the way going, wow, we did not get the full picture. We are learning how to manage disease rather than promote real health. And women have kind of been written out of the whole equation because the research and science was funded by men and only done on men. And so women kind of have been discarded, and we are completely different animals.
Completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so bad that I had no idea in medical school that all of the studies that we had on medications, on diagnoses, were all done on men. So you don't even get this knowledge. You just think that that is just how things are. And so it was just weird to me, like why women would present differently than men or why women would react differently to medications, because we never learned how women present. It was always just taught to us like heart attacks look like this. And and with women, they look really different.
Wow. Oh, tell us how.
Yeah,
Because we learn like, like left shoulder
Yes,
pain, like
yes.
tightness in chest.
Yeah.
If those things are happening, you call 911.
So the crazy thing is that women often present differently. Women have worse outcomes with heart attacks because people cannot recognize that they're having a heart attack when they say nausea. They say, I'm not feeling well. I feel fatigued. It's not that crushing left-sided chest pain radiating to the arm.
Wow. That's so helpful to know. I've never heard that before.
If in 2026, we should be talking about women just as much as we're talking about men in healthcare, and that's just not the case. In fact, the biggest area that we don't have support and research is women in midlife.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened to wake you up along this journey and go, wow, I didn't learn about nutrition. I don't know anything about like how to be healthy or how to even what's happening in menopause and perimenopause, which happens in every woman.
Exactly. So I went to nutrition school before I went to med school. When I was in medical school, I kept thinking that nutrition and medicine would be able to be combined. So I thought, okay, maybe we're not talking about it now, but at some point I'll blend it in together. And I went through residency and there was really no way to blend it in. Then I was like, let me go to fellowship, which is like after residency. And then I was like, well, when I go into practice, I'll just blend it in somehow. And like my first day of practice, I walked in and they were like, oh, we have 30 patients for you on day one. And I was like, how am I supposed to get through these patients and actually talk to them? And I was literally like sweating. That I remember that first week, I was like, this is crazy. Like, how do we even get done with the one thing that they came in for, much less talk to them about nutrition or lifestyle? So I knew from like the very beginning of my practice, after all those years of training, that there was something that I needed to do different.
And for the doctors who have the same experience of showing up going, how can I even do this? Do you think that like they're just like, well, this is the system, I'm in it. I invested all this time and money, like I can't change it. I'm just going to learn how to live within this system and not? Or do you think that you just had this intuition that we need to treat the whole person and find out about stress and lifestyle and diet?
I think there's a lot of people now, I think in my circle of friends, and I'm part of a lot of women's physician groups online. I think there's a lot of people who are dissatisfied with the current medical system, both because of the nutrition concept or other things. Like, there's so many problems, not treating the whole body, not feeling like you're really understanding the patient, not having enough time, feeling pressure from the hospitals. And so I think there's a big movement away from traditional medicine. I don't know what that's going to look like because everyone's trying to get, into that world. But I think everybody really wants something to change. I just knew it from the beginning because of my interest. I knew that like I wanted to blend somehow nutrition. I liked Eastern medicine. I liked, exercise, sunlight, all these things. And I felt like that wasn't really a part of the Western medical model.
And as like with your Indian background,
Yeah.
like food and
Yes.
spices are such an integral part of health.
Yeah, I loved Ayurveda because Ayurveda is like the ancient medicine that now is coming to light. Like turmeric, that was like they knew to like put turmeric with black pepper in all curries. And like now we're learning, oh yeah, you need black pepper to absorb the turmeric. And so there was so much wisdom that happened that we're just learning about. And even circadian rhythms, like having sunlight in the daytime and having darkness at night, not eating too late close to bed. Like these are all Ayurvedic principles that the sages knew thousands of years ago.
Thousands of years. Yeah. And they call it alternative.
Yeah,
It's like ancient wisdom
exactly.
that's been working.
Yes, for thousands of years. And of course, there's so many things that are like, I used to, when I was growing up, I'd be like, this is so stupid. Like, my grandma would want to, turmeric was like the thing you did for everything. Like, you have a cut, put turmeric on it. It's cold, like you have some turmeric tea. And I was just like, this is so stupid. Like, they don't really know what's the real thing. And I'm like, looking back at it, I'm like, they knew. It's like this stuff was passed down through ages, and it was always about the spices and getting the right herbs and spices for certain ailments. So it's really exciting that now everyone's kind of awakened to both nutrition and to alternative medicine.
Yeah, it's so great. The ancestors knew, and they're taking these herbs from nature.
Yeah.
And actually modern day medicine, for the most part, is taken from compounds from nature, but then altered.
Yes.
And the brilliance of nature is that, like you said, like black pepper is necessary for the turmeric to be absorbed or activated. And when you take and remove certain compounds and to isolate the thing that works and make it into medicine, it's actually, you need all the other parts of it to make it so there's no negative side effects, right?
Well, that's the thing that happened with food, right? So when they're trying to make food more tasty over the years, and obviously some of it is malicious, hyper palatable, they've taken out all the fiber from foods. So most of like teenagers, especially I have teenagers eat 70 to 75% ultra processed foods because they're the most sensitive to those dopamine pathways. And these foods are meant to have fiber, like even bread, like it's meant to have fiber. And you're stripping away all the fiber, and all you have left is like this ultra processed kind of food-like substances that the body can't even understand.
Yeah, it's not, there's no nutrition at all, but it gives you that dopamine hit and that sensation of being full, or like, it's such a sad thing. And no wonder, there's havoc in puberty as well.
That's right. I mean, it's scary what's going to happen in like 25 years, because these are the most susceptible group, these children and teens, and they're susceptible to online addiction, just like we are, but they're much more susceptible. And same thing with food, like issues with dopamine and cravings and food addictions. So it's a very scary thing. So it's very important that we get this out there so that people can be proactive in their own families to kind of say like, hey, we should be incorporating more of these foods, or we should be going outside more. Let's do these things for our gut health. That those conversations need to happen.
And how do you get through to your teens? Are they like, ugh, mom, nutritionist, doctor, like, we don't want to eat these things. We want the Twinkie, you know?
I think, it's just really tricky for me because I don't want to force. And, I remember I had a friend who would come over because her mom never would allow her to ever eat anything outside of like, home cooked food, and they wouldn't ever have any snacks. She would literally come over to my house and like eat the whole time, and like anything we had, she wanted. And so I was very careful, and I'm still very careful about not being too restrictive. I know we live in this world where it's 75% ultra processed. So I always ask them, I'm like, hey, maybe instead of going, out to eat with your friends to this restaurant, maybe you go to this restaurant that actually uses real food and it's not, drive-through kind of food. And I also just model good behavior. I think that's the biggest thing you can do. The reason why I wrote the book for moms and women in middle age is because they're often the matriarchs or the mothers or even the grandmothers, and they often influence everyone in the home. What you do, they're watching you. Even if they're not watching, they're not doing what you say, they're doing what you do.
Totally. And hormones literally can wreak havoc. Like I was attributing it to like astrology and just crazy people in my life. But for the past month, it's just been like this roller coaster ride. I'm like, I'm so resilient and like confident and in flow, and I'm feeling magnetic. And then the next day I'm like, what's it all for? Like, and I started on testosterone last year, but it was given to me by a male doctor who my friend swears by. And so, and I didn't, I'm kind of just like intuitive and
Yeah.
dive in and try anything.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm curious, like, I feel like the testosterone is really helpful. At one point, he had given me too much in the form of a pellet. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah.
Like my integrative doctor's like, you don't need to be on testosterone. So just for me personally,
Mhm.
like my period just for the first time is like late.
Yeah.
And I've been like clockwork.
Yeah.
So would you say, like, what's your thought on hormone replacement
Yeah.
therapy, almost 47 years old? Testosterone's been helpful, but now I need to like maybe talk about progesterone and
Yeah.
estrogen.
Okay, so question for you. There's three clear indications, and everything else is like a soft indication.
Okay.
Do you have any hot flashes or night sweats yet?
No,
Okay. Do you have osteoporosis or osteopenia?
no.
And then this one you don't have to answer if you don't want, but like vaginal symptoms, dryness, pain, that kind of thing. That's a third indication. So if you have any of these three indications, that is a clear slam dunk. Yes, you should
Okay.
start hormone therapy because those are the things that it actually definitely helped. With all of the other things, like if you're talking about energy and weight gain or even heart issues or brain, all of these are not clear indications for hormone therapy. So just to clarify, I think a lot of times on the internet, it's either black or white.
Uh-huh.
I think there's nuance. I think hormone therapy is amazing for everyone, but I'm in the same boat as you. I think I'm still getting my periods. So menopause is when you haven't gotten a period for 12 months straight.
Okay.
So I definitely think that you're not in menopause
No.
yet. You're in perimenopause. And so that is you're in a zone where you can use nutrition, lifestyle changes to see where you can get. Make sure you don't have deficiency. So 80% of women have vitamin D deficiency. You could look at iron, like
Yeah.
all of the other labs, make sure those are good. And then you could ride it out for a little bit longer, depending on your symptoms. There's no like right or wrong answer. If you were like, I want to try it, go for it. But there's no clear indication yet for you. And I'm in the same boat. I'm in exactly the same. Like, I don't have a clear indication yet. But if I felt like I wanted to try it, just like testosterone, like you said, I'll try it. If I don't like it, I'll stop,
Yeah.
And the progesterone I love for early, like perimenopause, where the sleep issues are really hitting and anxiety. So for sleep and anxiety, progesterone can be really wonderful, and you can even just take that
Okay.
in the beginning. And then, estrogen, definitely when your periods really get irregular or stop, that's like, that's a good time to really talk about estrogen. People are starting earlier and earlier, so there's no real like wrong time to start. But you don't have any of the clear indications. You could have the soft indications. And just like pellets, I don't love testosterone pellets. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. I stopped. I
because-
switched to injections because I was like, my level went up way too high, and there's
Yeah.
no
And there's no way to control
control.
it. And I think that's a very big issue for women. Their levels go, like you check people's testosterone, they're sky high.
I know.
And it's really dangerous. It's
Yeah.
not just uncomfortable, or like you have side effects,
Yeah.
but it's quite dangerous. So it's good to note that. I think for most women, pellets are not necessarily the right fit
Mhm.
because it's just hard to adjust.
Yeah, totally agree. And can living testing. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And so you talk a lot in your book about diet. There's the protein, and then there's movement, and you come up with these like cool numbered
Yeah.
protocols.
Yeah.
So let's dive into that.
Yeah. Okay. So 30-33 is a nutritional protocol. And so I know, okay, so you're a healthy person, but I would say if you did all the protocols in the book and you're like, wow, my symptoms are feeling so much better, then you probably don't need to start for a little bit. It's not and or, it's definitely and, but at least you can see how you're feeling
Yeah.
once you do that. So 30-33 is 30 grams of protein in your first meal, 30 grams of fiber throughout the day, and 3 servings of probiotic foods. And so 95% of Americans don't get enough fiber. Most Americans get between 12 and 15 grams, and we need double that.
Wow.
And most Americans are not getting fermented food, probably like 99%. I don't know if we even have numbers on that. So those two are really, really difficult. But the first one, 30 grams of protein in your first meal, that's maybe the first step. Kind of doable for a lot of people. I always have to explain like what 30 grams of protein might look like. It's like a egg omelet, maybe more whites than yolk because you need like 5 to get 30 grams. Or you have a smaller omelet, but then you have cottage cheese or Greek yogurt and you can get your 30 grams. Or you can just have a parfait, like a Greek yogurt parfait or tofu scramble. There's a lot of ways to get that 30 grams. That's not super hard. But I think it's a great way to start your day. It's great for mood. It's great for cravings. It's great for gut health. It's great for hormones.
Great. Yeah. My doctor, I repeatedly test sensitive with eggs.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to avoid eggs.
Yeah.
And I'm not like allergic, so they can be in baked goods or whatever I eat. But sometimes I feel the sensitivity and they've shown up on blood tests that I'm sensitive. So I'm like, how do I get 30 grams of protein? But the yogurt, the cottage cheese,
Yes.
the tofu, those are good ideas.
Yeah.
What about protein powder?
Yeah. I think protein powder, there's a role for protein bars and powders and shots and like all the shakes and all of that stuff. There is a role for it, just like there's a role for, protein. Like it's a convenience, and a lot of us need that convenience. But when you can get it through food, amazing.
Always better.
Yeah, always better. And the follow-up question on your eggs. So you do feel worse when you eat them?
Sometimes it makes me feel a little nauseous.
Okay.
Sometimes no, but I was like, oh, that tracks because
Because often food sensitivity testing, you need to follow it up with actual food elimination and then reintroduction because food sensitivity testing is notoriously wrong.
Oh.
It's like a 50-50 chance of being right.
Oh, wow.
So that's why you want to follow it up with, if you're like, every time I eat eggs, I feel sick, I throw up. Yes, obviously that's clear. Your body's reacting. Our bodies are really complex and we still don't have a test for food sensitivities that's super accurate. So you can do your own little test if you want.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, that gives me a little more freedom, like test eggs. If it's not feeling right, stop eating them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember there was a time when like almonds have never shown up on food sensitivity until there was a time where I was making my own almond milk. I was eating handfuls of almonds as a snack, and I literally probably overdosed on almonds, and then they showed up as I was sensitive because my body's like, no more, So it makes sense.
It could also be that your body made an antibody to it because you eat it all the time.
Yeah.
So there's actually good studies that show that some people make the antibodies, but it's not harmful to you.
Okay.
Meaning that your body just recognized that you eat it a lot. But it's also, again, you test yourself. Yeah. So food elimination would mean that you take it out of your diet for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then you reintroduce it. That is a true food elimination diet. And you should do that with each of the foods that you're worried about because our GI tract is super complex and sometimes we won't react.
Yeah. And it changes.
Yeah,
it's always changing.
It changes. Yeah.
So probiotic foods, you mentioned 3. We'll get back to the fiber in a second. But, like kimchi and sauerkraut, these things are not appealing to me.
Yogurt.
Okay.
Probiotic cottage cheese.
Okay.
Kombucha.
Okay.
Kefir.
Yeah.
All of those things
And
count.
apple cider vinegar, I think, right?
Raw apple cider vinegar.
Like just a shot or something?
Yeah, you can put in your water. You can put in your dressing. Right. So it's actually not that hard to get it. The hard part for me is when I'm traveling like this is getting those fermented foods. Like unless you're eating yogurt or you're getting a kombucha, it's really hard. I mean, LA is much easier, but most places are really hard to find fermented foods. But the reason why I wanted to give the framework is it's something to work towards. At least you have some framework to be like, okay, if I wanted to optimize my brain, my hormones, my body, these would be the goals. And within that, you can eat whatever else you want, that cover all. You could be vegan, paleo, carnivore, vegetarian. You can still get the 30-33.
And it feels so simple and doable, right? So 30 grams of protein in the morning with the first meal, 30 grams of fiber. Like what are some fiber foods that maybe we don't think of as filled with fiber?
Berries. Berries are an amazing source of fiber. Blueberries, raspberries. Raspberries actually have 8 grams per cup. Wow. Pears like a hack. It's like 6 grams of fiber for a pear. Avocado is a great source of fiber. Chia seeds, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds is 5 grams of fiber. And there's studies that show that just adding 5 grams of fiber to your diet can reduce your risk of all-cause mortality by 7 to 10%.
Wow.
So an American that's eating 12 to 15 grams of fiber, adding just that 1 tablespoon of chia seeds could actually change the trajectory of your life.
Wow. That's so huge.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
It's like a simple. I believe that if women especially know this knowledge, like if someone tells them this, you will do it and you will improve your life. The studies are there. I'm not doing this study. I'm just telling you about it because it shouldn't be a secret.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
These are simple things that can really, like you said, change the trajectory. Okay. So that is for the diet.
Yes.
And you have recipes in the book.
Yes, recipes,
Talk
because
to me about those.
a lot of people have said to me when I introduce patients and people on social, when I introduced the 30-33 a long time ago, actually a year ago, because I was testing it to see, that's how I actually wrote this book, because I got so much feedback that people, thousands of people saying, this is working for me. I feel better on this. But the biggest problem was like, how do I find fiber? How do I make this work in my life? Like, can you give me sample menu? Can you give me sample recipes? And so we did both menu and recipes. So, but simple ones, very simple things,
Cool.
like a chia seed pudding, quick, 5-minute recipe, because I know that if you're reading this book, your hormones are either in havoc or about to be in havoc or were in havoc, and you don't really want to be doing a 1 to 2 hour recipe.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're a busy mom and you have teenagers
Exactly.
and you're just like,
or you're like dropping
I need,
you have a 6-year-old,
Yeah.
like it's tough.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so good. I'm so excited. Like, again, perfect timing that the universe brought you into the studio because I
I'm
need
so
this
happy.
information.
Yeah, and for people who are like you, I think there's a lot of people who are like, where am I on this hormonal continuum? Should I be doing anything? I think the biggest message that I got from the research is do everything you can through nutrition and lifestyle. Get your labs checked to make sure that you're not missing some big deficiency. And then you can see where you're at that point. Really get yourself in check. And then you can have the conversation with your doctor, because a lot of things will go away once you start eating better, sleeping better, having, maybe you are healthy, but you're not following this.
Yeah.
And so you got to check to see how you feel, and then you can make a decision.
But for the people listening that say, I'm limited to the conventional system because of my health insurance, and then they go and get their labs and their doctor is telling them that everything is normal, they have nothing to worry about, like, what do you say to those people?
That's the people I wrote the book for.
Okay.
The book is for people who are like, I don't know what to do at this point. I'm feeling tired. I may be in this perimenopause range. I'm not sure if it's like I'm just busy and I have kids, or I have this demanding job, or is it perimenopause? Like, what do I do?
Or the world has lost its mind,
Yes.
which also a factor.
Yeah. Or, yeah, exactly. There's so many
Chaos in the world,
tragedies
yeah.
in the world, and I don't know, how to deal. So that's why I think it can be really helpful, because as you know, nutrition is medicine. It's literally medicine for our body that we have neglected for 100 years here in the US.
Yeah. And for women too, and men, but like mostly women, they're so, because of the societal pressures and the patriarchy and everything else, we kind of associate nutrition with just weight loss. Like people are so weight loss focused, but then they do extreme things that completely rips nutrition out of their whole game. And so they might be skinny, but they're nutrient deprived.
That's absolutely true. So what I found is women often get osteoporosis and low muscle mass, sarcopenia, because our peak muscle mass and our peak bone mass is at age 30. And so if you've dieted from the time you were, well, if you've dieted, for many women, they were always on these extreme, or cycling on and off these extreme weight loss diets, or things to make you smaller. And so at 30, you've reached the peak of your muscle and bone, and then you're trying to push back from that. So a lot of women are in an osteopenia or osteoporotic state very early because of this diet culture that we created. But the good news is you can build bone at any age. You can build muscle at any age.
Whew.
It's just that the stimulus that we need is stronger. So it's not an optional thing to do weight training when you are 35 and up. When you're a kid, some people just didn't do weight training at all, and your body just kept making bone, kept making muscle. But after 35, you just have to add weight training in. You need that force to pull on your muscles, to pull on your bones. Squats, lunges, push-ups, pull-ups, these are things that stimulate muscle and bone, so you can build it. And there are people who build muscle for the first time in their 60s, 70s, 80s, so that's incredible. But it's really a shame that we do this to girls and women when they're young, and you don't tell them like, hey, this is your time to build as much bone and muscle as you can. Like, and people don't know that.
And the GLP-1 craze is, I think, we're learning that, because I was kind of anti at first, because I'm like, dude, they're not eating,
Yeah.
their intestines are atrophying, and like they're losing muscle mass rapidly, and people are ending up in the hospital with like kidney failure and pancreatic failure. I was like, these things are bad.
Yeah.
Now they're finding that they're, and I don't know if this is marketing, but it's like microdosing has, neuroprotective effects and good for longevity because of the insulin and the blood sugar regulation. But like
you lose muscle if you're not doing weight training,
and you're not getting nutrients because you're eating less. So
That's
it's
right.
just like we have to be aware of like if you're going to be taking these things for weight loss, like a smaller dose, and maintaining these lifestyle and nutrition pathways are like so paramount.
In fact, if you're on a GLP-1, it's more important than ever to really focus on the protein, the weight training. It's not the time to say, oh, well, I don't need to do that anymore because I'm on, I think the focus should be, hey, I need more protein than I would have because I'm really trying to counteract muscle loss as I'm losing weight. And I really need to do strength training, even if I wasn't prioritizing it before. It's almost like you don't have time, or you don't have the ability to kind of skimp on that.
So let's dive into your 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes. Okay. So 4, 3, 2, 1 is just a framework. And I said in the beginning of that chapter that any movement is awesome. So if you're like, I can't do 4, 3, 2, 1, I just love my swimming, great. Any movement is great.
Okay.
But if you're someone who's like, what's the optimal thing like I should be doing for my age as I get older, to age well, to like help my hormones really stay up as long as possible, is 4, 3, 2, 1. So 4 means 4 days of movement, like walking, anything you love. So if you love something that you lose track of time doing, you look at these longevity studies, and there's people who've like biked for 30, 40, 50 years, or they've played sport for that long. So find something that you love so much that you don't dread doing it. The worst, I know you've had this, worst case is when you're in a class or you're doing an activity and you're like, oh, it's only 5 minutes past, oh my God.
I used to do Bikram yoga, and I was like, oh God, the same poses over and over in a sweaty room. It's like, I need change. I need variety.
And you were probably like, you didn't love it, and so you didn't stick with it, and you were counting down the minutes till it would be over. So I want you to find the opposite of that for 4. What is the thing that like lights you up, that makes you have so much fun, or just gives you like, for me, like walking is the best release for the day, lowers your stress. It's movement, but it's not complicated. Like you can do it with a friend. There's so many benefits I find to like being outdoors, like hiking, walking. So that's 4. Number 3 is 3 weight training sessions a week. So strength training is essential, as I said, as you get older, because you're counteracting the muscle and bone loss. And 2 is a minimum and 3 is a recommended. So we want 3 because 2, you could do it, but it's really hard to get it all in. So 3 is the recommended amount. And with strength training, I'm very lenient in the sense that 2 of the days can be in the gym, but like one day you could be doing Pilates, or you could be doing, power yoga, whatever it is.
Okay.
You don't need to be doing like lifting dumbbells at the gym every single time. And then 2 is hot therapy. So doesn't have to be right in a sauna. It could be movement, hot yoga, hot, whatever, sauna, steam rooms, like hot baths, whatever. So 2 sessions of heat a week.
Okay.
And then the last one is the one I don't know if I think you might not like, is 1 sprint a week.
Okay.
A sprint session, meaning like 1 session where your heart rate is like 85% of its max, because our heart is a muscle and we need to sometimes push it. Not every day, because every day means our cortisol is super high and we feel exhausted and it's working against us.
Mhm.
But 1 day a week, or even 2, but 1 is the minimum, that you actually push yourself a little bit. And there was a study that showed that if you do that for people who are sedentary and you push them once a week, along with the baseline of other movement, you can like anti-age their heart by 20 years.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I do tennis is my obsession. As
Oh, I
people
love that. So
listening
tennis
know.
is your 4.
Yeah. But does that count for sprinting too? Because I'm playing matches and I'm sprinting.
That's true.
Or...
Well, how long are you in your 85% zone though?
Oh, they're
That's
little spurts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, singles tennis, it
Way
can,
more.
can definitely get you up there, especially when your heart rate is really high. But you can test yourself. There's obviously, you could do the official VO2 max test, which really checks like how well your body can oxygenate at those highest levels. That's kind of the gold standard for where you stand on your cardiorespiratory health.
Yeah.
So I don't know have you ever done the official test?
I haven't, no.
Yeah. So that can give you a good view of where you're at right now.
Okay.
And then for people who don't have access to it, most people don't have access to it, there's little easy tests that you can do online that say like, after you're exhausted, say you played a whole thing of tennis, you have to run your fastest mile and you check your heart rate during that. And that's kind of gives you like a little test of like how you're doing on that. And so sprinting may mean tennis. It could mean after tennis, you do 30-second sprints on the treadmill or on a hill, because you live in this beautiful hilly area.
Yeah.
So it's not, it doesn't have to be on a bike or a treadmill all the time. The one that they did in the study that showed 20-year anti-aging was a Norwegian 4x4. So they did 4 minutes of high intensity work and then had a break.
Okay.
And then would do another 4 minutes of high intensity work and then break, and then for 4 times.
Yeah.
That's really challenging.
Okay.
So if you can do that version, you can look up Norwegian 4x4 for anyone who's interested. It's a very difficult one, but you can get a version of that for yourself.
Amazing. Again, so simple.
Yeah.
And like you said, like I think walking for people that aren't as like active as me, I've been an athlete my whole life.
Yeah.
Just walking like can do wonders for, cardio health and
brain health. So
bilateral movement and
walking every day for 40 minutes, actually just 3 times a week. If you walk for 40 minutes, you will grow an area of your brain called the hippocampus. Grow the brain even as an adult just by walking.
Yeah. And it's so easy to do. And it like helps move your mood, like improve your mood. Walking is kind of like a little secret.
It literally
miracle.
is a secret hack, especially for women in midlife, because a lot of us, including myself, have a lot of cortisol issues. As you move into midlife, your ability to buffer that cortisol and adrenaline just goes down, meaning that the same things that didn't stress you out when you were younger stress you out now, whether it's mental stress or physical stress. And so you need more recovery. You need more walking in nature. You need more sleep. So I think that walking is such a wonderful activity that actually brings down your cortisol, but also gives you movement and boosts your mood, especially if you're doing it outside.
Yes. Get outside.
Yes.
People. Rebounding, jumping. Yeah. What's the deal
jumping
there?
Is amazing. To stimulate bone, you do want to do some of those jumps on a harder surface, like box jumps or, stairs up and down, because you kind of need that force of like stomping to get that stimulus to make bone.
Okay.
So if you're injured, rebounding is amazing, but after the if you're someone who can stand it after the rebound or before or around, do some like maybe even just 15 jumps or stomps that kind of stimulate that bone, that like, really force. That's what gives the bone a message to make more.
Amazing. And then so I think like the hormone conversation needs to start too, like before puberty, because it really is, you mentioned the word continuum before. So I would imagine that these protocols that you came up with for perimenopause and menopause also really help to stabilize or give a better foundation for hormone health in preteens.
Yes, absolutely. So not only, so preteens need to be eating this way.
Yeah.
Women in their 20s and 30s need to know this because this is the time you're banking all your bone and muscle. And then post-menopause women need to know this because I think a lot of women feel like they're forgotten post-menopause, like, oh, I'm in my 60s and I don't know what to eat. So it's really helpful. I have a whole section on post-menopause because even though you're kind of out of the roller coaster, there's a lot that you should be doing at that time because our risk of almost every kind of like life-threatening disease goes up after menopause. So you really have to be cognizant about heart health and brain health. And that's when things really change for women. Like women have a longer lifespan, but they spend more of their life disabled or having a disease or some kind of ailment. And so we have to really help the people even after menopause too. So women have the very beautiful hormonal continuum that really defines so much of their life, but it also is very difficult at times. So you need to kind of change that. And I think people find a fun fact. Do you know about the grandmother effect?
No.
The grandmother effect is in the animal kingdom, all animals die when an organ dies. Like they die after menopause because if an organ dies in your body, you basically die. So every animal in the animal kingdom, once you can't reproduce anymore, your ovaries die, you die.
What?
Whereas in humans, you live 30, sometimes 40 years past the ovaries being done. So what's happening here is evolutionarily, they believe that humans and a few other species, it's like a 5 in the whole animal kingdom, where evolutionarily we survived past reproduction. And they think it was because we had a role in society. We were the grandmothers, the women were grandmothers and they were helping their daughters or sons and their children. And so they had a huge role that they played in society. They were also the matriarchs of their, of their town or village or whatever it was, tribe.
And the wisdom keepers and
the wisdom keepers and the leaders and the so it's so interesting because to me I'm like, wow, that's like we have such a huge role post. We're not just like reproduction like centers, know. We have this entire life outside of our children, both for our children's children, but also for society, for leadership opportunities. So we're supposed to be in our next phase of life, in menopause. That's the theory of why we're supposed to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I've seen like people in their older age, like they live longer or they live healthier when they have a role still in their village.
Yes.
So like I'm really making sure my mom is like watching my daughter and still engaged and giving her purpose.
They need purpose.
Because it really does like unleash vitality and longevity.
Yes, they need purpose. Women thrive on purpose, and also women very uniquely thrive on community. So I think, everybody needs community, but women in particular really thrive when they're around other women. It's like the female friendship effect. Your oxytocin goes sky high, your cortisol goes low. It's a very essential part of being women. Also, probably evolutionarily, women needed to be more in communities or with other friends or people like-minded people. So it's really interesting how all of that kind of plays into our lives now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, totally. Speaking of community and women, there's if you're on Instagram, there's so much conflicting information about alcohol.
Yes.
Obviously, I know that there's a huge marketing effect on why alcohol has benefits.
Yes.
But also like I want to live and I want to enjoy life. So I don't necessarily believe in a black or white or like a rigidity in anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I'm not talking about like meth or heroin or anything like that. Like there should be rigidity there.
Yeah.
But with alcohol, like there is something to be said about in very little moderation, the social effect, the reduction of stress could be a benefit more than the risk. But I also know that my body is really not processing it as well anymore,
Yeah.
which is a real bummer to me.
Yeah. Your body does not process it. That's another thing that happens in midlife. That's fun. Our alcohol dehydrogenase enzymes are lower, and we just feel the effects a lot more. So the science is really, really clear to me right now that for brain health, there's no amount of alcohol on a daily basis that would be good for your brain. If there's someone who's like, I love alcohol, it's a really big part of my life, I enjoy it, it's something social, then you'd want to stick to 3 drinks a week for women, like 2 to 3 drinks a week for women, maybe 3 to 5 for men for a week.
Okay.
There's no amount of daily alcohol that actually is not harmful. So even just 1 glass of wine a night is harmful. So now we're finding out more and more because the thing is, it's a toxin. So if you're willing,
Damn it.
it's a toxin. So our body treats it like a toxin and it prioritizes getting rid of it. And so if you're having a toxin and you are putting, like if you put a toxin in a glass of water, you put 1 or 2 drops, you're fine. Like it kind of just like goes away, but if you put a toxin in and dump the whole thing in the glass of water, like the water is going to change, right? So you have to, the dose is really important, but at the end of the day, it's a toxin.
Got it. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm like the dehydrogenase. Is that what you said?
Alcohol dehydrogenase.
Yeah. I mean, can we come up with that pill to take?
Yeah. I mean, there's some herbal supplements and there's things that you can do to like boost your ability to
have a weekend
kind
or
of like
something.
detox. Yeah. Out. I guess my thought is that as little as you can have. So again, think about the dropper of like black food coloring in a glass of water. As little as you can drop in there, the more your body can kind of like process it and get it out. But the more you put in there, and also like binge, like the people who do a lot at once, like if you're putting in a lot at once, it's really hard on the body to kind of get rid of it. So those are all kind of tips for people. And also if you are going to have your, say, 2 to 3 drinks a week, if the earlier you can have it in the day, the better it is for your body to be able to process that before you go to bed.
Yeah. All makes sense. And all, again, tested and true in my body. So you mentioned hot therapy, sauna, all of this. Like, is that because the hot flashes are trying to, like, what are the purpose of hot flashes? And are you trying to mimic that with like sauna, hot baths, and everything else?
Okay. So hot flashes and night sweats are actually a really warning, like a negative sign to the body. We have a temperature regulation center in our brain, and our brain has lots of estrogen receptors. And one of the things that happens when our estrogen is going down is we have malfunction of the brain fog that people feel. And also then when the estrogen levels are getting really low, that brain center that controls your temperature goes off. And that's a sign that your body's kind of suffering. That's why I say that's one of the clear indications for hormone therapy, because that's like, we also know that severe hot flashes and severe night sweats is also linked to poor outcomes after menopause. So that's kind of a negative thing. Heat therapy, what that does, we have Finnish people, all the data is from Finland,
Yeah.
or most of the data.
All those normal saunas.
Yes, they have sauna in their life. A lot of Finnish people, most Finnish people will be using saunas. So the data from the Finnish population shows that hot therapy, when you raise your core body temperature, there's a lot of positive things that happen. So people will have boost of their growth hormone, so the beautiful hormone, anti-aging hormone. They'll have a boost in brain health and a boost in heart health and overall longevity. So that's why I recommend it. So we believe that the mechanism is that your core temperature goes up for about 20 minutes or so. You start releasing these heat shock proteins, which then go all over your body and create all these nice magical things. And we can kind of recreate that from different ways. So yes, the Finnish data is all on saunas, but they found similar results when you look at Japanese hot baths. Then you look at, people doing heated exercise. So there's various ways to raise your core body temperature for 20 minutes at a time to kind of get that heat shock protein. That's what we're trying to get.
Cool.
So you can do it, in a sauna, but you could do it in a steam room, or you could do it at your hot yoga place. So figuring out what kind of heat therapy suits you is a great thing. There are people who can't stand heat therapy, but I think it's there's really great data for longevity and hormone health for women.
Like a hot bath is so good. What about contrast therapy? Cold. What's
Yeah,
your idea on
okay.
cold?
Okay, cold contrast therapy is great, especially if you're going to go from cold to hot, hot to cold. The data on cold therapy has not come out positive yet, meaning longevity-wise, doesn't seem to pan out. Can it give you a bolt of adrenaline? Yes. But is a bolt of adrenaline something we need as menopausal, perimenopausal women? Sometimes no. It has to be obviously just like the sprint therapy that I was saying, like sprint once a week, but couch it with recovery on all sides. Same thing with cold therapy. I think a lot of people do cold therapy as like something that they feel like it's like a badge of honor. But remember, it's a stressor. And just like any stressor, you need to be careful about how you stressed your body. Are you recovering? Are you ready for that stress? Like, there's some thought of, jumping in a cold pool or something and really shocking your body is not necessarily a great thing all the time, especially if you're already stressed out, right? So cold therapy, not a hard no, because it can give you energy, it can make you feel good, but the longevity data and the data on women is not great.
So when I think of that, like I remember learning about cold showers, and I finished with a cold shower now. But there's sometimes when I'm like my resistance is lower and I'm not going to get into a cold plunge because I just feel like I couldn't bring my core temperature back up afterwards.
That's the right way to think about it.
Yeah. And then I was thinking like, I remember reading a book about centenarians, so people that live to 100, and one of them that they do is like cold showers. And then I'm thinking back to prior to kind of modern technology, people bathed in cold, like ice cold creeks and rivers, right? So they didn't have like really, maybe they made hot baths, but I think it would just be easier that they go in the cold.
Yes.
So I like don't overthink it, because I'm like, our ancestors like didn't have a choice. Like it was 100%. Just cold water.
That's why I was talking to one of the biggest researchers in contrast therapy, and she was saying that about contrast therapy. She said, I like cold, she said, in the setting of contrast therapy. So going from, a cold bath or a cold plunge to a hot thing. And I think there's a lot of benefits on going back and forth. And she thinks, like in most countries, that's how they do sauna, is from a cold place to the sauna. So
and I think also the vascular like shocking, it does make sense that it makes your circulation system stronger. And then the breath effect that Wim Hof does and stuff. Because the minute you get into cold water or the minute you turn on the cold shower, you're like, you can't help but take this breath. And then I think of, most of our, like, we detox a ton more than we know through our exhales. So to anything that gives us this like biggest inhale and exhale and flushing out the circulation, the blood toxins, like it just makes sense to me that it works, but I listen to my body when it's right for me and when it's not.
That's right. And, there's some argument that women might not need as cold as men. So
Yes.
really don't be stuck on a temperature. And also same thing, like if you're in a time of your period, like right before your period, your late luteal phase, for most women, they're less stress sensitive, less stress resilient at that time. And so that's probably not the time that you want to start trying cold therapy, or if you might want to skip it if you tend to do it, because those are the time of your cycle that you're most sensitive to.
So like the week before you
The-
get your period.
The week before the period, late
Yeah.
luteal phase that's the week where you feel like everything's going wrong.
Yeah. You need more carbs,
Yeah,
right?
you might not
yeah.
sleep as well. You have more anxiety. You're also less resilient to stressors like fasting or cold plunge or anything that's going to like stress your body.
Yeah.
You're a little less resilient to it.
Yeah, like cycle syncing and,
Yes.
and diet, like that's so helpful. I don't know if you talk about that at all
Yeah.
to learn, but then I was like, well, what do people post period
Yes.
do?
So
Is there any need to vary what you eat or what you do?
Well, cycle syncing, I think the problem with the internet is everything is so like it's just this is how on day this you should do this. But as you know, sometimes the week before your period you feel like crap. And then other times you're like, I kind of want to go do the workout. So like, why would you not do it then? So it's got to be very intuitive to what you're going through. And perimenopause is so hard because as you've already shared, you've had kind of irregular periods starting. So women are like not even sure what phase of the cycle they're on. And so it becomes really difficult. And perimenopause is like a very long late luteal phase. So it's like you're more stress sensitive, you're moody, your brain fog, all of those things are going to be extended or maybe even like happening a lot more in not just that week.
For someone in my phase where like periods are maybe getting lesser duration and now like they're slightly irregular, but potentially want to maintain fertility. Am I screwed?
No.
Has that ship sailed?
No, you can get pregnant in perimenopause
Okay.
for sure. There's lots of data. I mean, you still have eggs. I would think of it like the end of a toothpaste tube. So remember, sometimes when you squeeze the toothpaste, you get like a full squeeze, and then other times you get a splatter, and then the next time you get just a puff of air. That's what's happening to your ovaries. You're kind of at the end. That doesn't mean that there's nothing there. It just means that there's like just a little bit left. But once you go through full menopause and you haven't had a period for 12 months, that after that, technically, you wouldn't be able to get pregnant. Although, things happen.
Yeah, miracles happen. I mean, I've just heard that like, especially more in kind of the Eastern cultures, people historically and still to this day have babies in their like mid-50s.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
And in to their defense, people who have babies later in life actually have they're more likely to have longer lives. Like they live till 99 or 100 or beyond. But the thing is, there's an issue with those kind of studies. Obviously, if you had a baby later in life, it's probably you're fertile, you're healthier. So then the fact that you lived to your 90, longer.
What's the correlation?
Yeah. It's just that you're a healthier person. So you're able to carry a baby like later in life. So it's all a good thing. I think there's no wrong time. If people want to have a baby, like definitely perimenopause. It's not a hard no.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're in a group of women physicians. Is there, I'll just ask you two questions to close. You can pick which one. Is there something in the conversation that's really interesting that's coming up that women are talking about that is like new and exciting for you to address?
Yeah.
And or is there just something on your heart and mind that you want to share that's like, be honest?
I think the question about women, and a lot of these are mom physicians, I think that part of the reason I got so interested in this world is I kept seeing women really suffering. Midlife is a really hard time for us. So when I say midlife, I mean like 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond. People are going through lots of life changes. We're often taking care of our children and our parents. We have issues with work, with our marriage, with stress, with, it is a really difficult time and everyone is struggling. And so I think it's good to know that if you're someone who's going through this time. And so all the resources we can get, we should have each other, exercise, books, podcasts, all the resources that we can have to help women through this very, very difficult time of their lives that I see every day through my patients, but also through my friends in these groups, we need to be doing.
Yeah, totally agree. As you're talking, it's like we are under insurmountable amounts of stress. I mean, just like with the access to information and visuals that in, social media and 24 hours news cycle, we were never exposed to this much information, a lot of it negative, violent, traumatic, tragic. Just that alone, the increase is like hard to process as a human being. And then, like you said, in this stage of life where we're mothers or fathers and taking care of our elderly parents, like it is just, and then we're going through hormone changes. Like it's a lot, So
Yeah.
we do have to community is everything, and
It's everything.
sharing and,
And making people recognize, even people who aren't in this community, like people who own corporations and, are making laws. Everybody should know this
Yeah.
so that we can treat our women better.
Yeah. Amen, sister. Well, thank you. So Hormone Havoc, anywhere books are sold.
Anywhere books are sold.
Okay. And how do people follow you or learn more?
I'm at Dr. Amy Shah on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm at amymdwellness.com. That's my website.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this really, really important and helpful information.
Thanks for having me.